All right, let's go ahead and wrap up. Let's put a bow on this indie rock vocal mix with the song that we're using by Easy Day, the song You and I. And in this final video in this indie rock series, here I am going to basically walk you through some automation moves. And this is the type of automation that you generally want to do at the end of your mix. And of course, we're specifically talking about vocals, but this concept does apply to all the other tracks that you would have in a mix. So the main objective of this video, the number one goal is to make sure that the lead vocal is in a good place volume wise from the start of the song all the way to the end of the song. For this song and for the majority of songs that you and I produce, the lead vocal is the single most important component of the song. And this is no exception. And so as much as I love everything that we've done, we've messed around with some saturation and some reverbs and some delays and different things like that. At the end of the day, though, all those things that we added, they're not going to have the effect we want if the volume of the vocal is not in a good pocket from the start of the song all the way throughout. So that's the first thing we'll focus on here. Now, before I forget, at the end of this video, I'm actually going to open up Spotify and we're going to listen to and play and compare my version of this vocal mix to Easy Day's original You and I song that's actually up on Spotify. Because again, just to reiterate, they sent me the dry stems, Easy Day did, for me to basically create my own version of this vocal mix. However, as you have noticed, I've not been referencing the original by Easy Day. So there's definitely going to be some differences. And I think that'll be just very interesting to see what those differences are going to be. So let's dive into automating the volume of the lead vocal. So we'll come into our mix window and we'll go ahead and automate the lead vocals bus here. So all of the lead vocals obviously are going through this lead vocals bus. So the way that I prefer to work is not by automating the volume faders, because if I automate a volume fader, then it automatically will lock it back into place. So I like having this fader to be free, and when I move it, it actually moves in the way that I want to. Because if you automate a volume fader, it will lock it to whatever the automation move is, okay? So the way that I prefer to do it is at the end of the vocal chain, I will add any type of plugin that allows me to turn up the volume or turn it down. And in Studio One, my preferred plugin for that is simply Mix Tool, just a very basic plugin. And that's exactly what we are going to do. So we are just going to automate this gain knob here so that we can turn it up and turn it down. So after I hit that, it popped up that parameter over here. I hit the little A here to create an automation lane. That'll of course look slightly different depending on which DAW you're using. Just learn the automation skills that are necessary and conducive to your specific DAW. Now, what we want to do is write in this automation. So now that we have this loaded up here, let's go ahead and write this in. But of course, I don't want to write it in if I don't exactly know what my goal is here. So first we need to listen and then make adjustments accordingly. So let's get started with where this vocal starts and let's dial in this automation.
Started up on a hill, the story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell, I crouched down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that caught you by surprise.
Now, here's a point that I think you might find useful. When you are working with volume automation in this way, you don't necessarily need to get the overall volume level at the right spot. But what matters is consistency. So you want to find initially just a pocket of level for what you feel like you want your vocal to sit in. And this could be not loud enough at the final result or too loud. That doesn't really matter as long as you maintain that consistently from start to finish. Does that make sense? So this might be a little bit too loud,
Started up on a hill.
but as long as we maintain that level of loudness in the vocal from start to finish and automate accordingly, then at the end we can just go ahead and turn everything down or turn everything up using the fader in the mix window, right? So that is an important point. You don't have to get it perfect when it comes to making the final decision of where the volume is, but let's remember to keep this relative and let's make sure to do the best that we can to, from start to finish, that that vocal is in a consistent place. Okay, so let's keep going here. I think we're good. I'm gonna just listen to this one more time just to make sure I didn't skip over anything.
Started up on a hill, the story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I.
I like the volume of that. And again, I'm making a mental note almost of, okay, this is the volume level of the vocal. And now I'm going to try to retain that level throughout the entirety of the song.
I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine, just a rock that caught you by surprise.
Now that,
I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine.
I feel like that line is maybe a little bit lower in volume. So let's see what happens if we write in this automation. I'm just going to go ahead and use this.
Remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine.
Oops, went a little bit too much. I'll just undo that.
I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine.
Do we like that? So I raised it by just over half a dB, so not much. But again, it was this phrase I felt like dropped off in energy just a little bit. And that's a key thing too that you want to keep in mind here. You don't want to become too technical. You want to base your decisions on what you're feeling. What I mean by that is you don't necessarily need to turn up the volume of a particular phrase in the vocal track just because you think that it's not as loud as the next line. You turn it up or turn it down in response to what you're feeling. Do you feel like you lost energy or too much energy was added so that it's almost has this incongruent feeling to it now? That is what we're responding to more so than objectively what exactly, is the decibels. We're just listening for the way that energy is reduced or energy is added and then making the adjustments accordingly. So let's listen to this again.
I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine.
Yes, I think that just that little half dB boost there actually made a difference. I mean, I hope I'm not, deceiving my ears here. Maybe there's not really a difference, but to me now, I feel like the energy level is pretty much exactly the same now with that 0.65 dB boost for this phrase. So,
You
all right.
help. You were fine, just a rock that caught you by surprise. That was the first time I held.
Now there again, I feel like
That was the first time I held.
that was the is fine, but then first time I held, I feel a slight energy drop off.
That was the first time I held.
Right? Maybe not even the last two words, but these two middle words here. So let's try this here. I'll write this in.
That was the first time I.
Wait a second.
That was the first time I held.
That what we want? So we'll start there.
That was the first time I held.
I think it's mainly here.
The first time I held.
I think just first time is all we need there. And then we can just do this. Now, of course, as you can see, I'm writing in this automation here using my mouse and in the write mode. But you can obviously, of course, do this manually. And for years when I was first learning to automate and for the first large number of songs that I mixed, I would do it mostly like this, right? Kind of just pick out the different parts that I wanted to turn up or turn down. It was only in the past couple years that I've become really comfortable with using the fader to automate, and it's great for workflow. But if you're just starting out, don't be afraid to take the more tedious and time-consuming approach of really going in and, you know, manually going like this or doing whatever to where you're not actually riding the fader up and down because that can be a bit difficult to master if you're just learning these skills. So don't be afraid to be a beginner, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we have,
I held your.
we just turn up these two words.
That was the first time I held.
Again, I think that makes a difference. Let's turn this off, okay? Let's turn this off for a second so we can see the difference. All right? So here is without that gain.
That was the first time I held.
Listen to the word first time again, right? That's what we're boosting there.
That was the first time I held.
It's super subtle, obviously, but it's amazing. The more that you start mixing songs and producing songs, your ear becomes so in tune and you just develop this acumen of being incredibly detailed and hyper focused and being and hyper aware of all of everything that's happening, which allows you to make these very nuanced decisions. Okay, so let's keep this going. I really like what we did there, and I think we solved that tiny little problem, if you will, and we just made it slightly better. So there we
Your
go.
small hand
Let me see. Come back here.
your small hand is back to health. You and I felt the vibe. It was time go inside.
Now, do we want to turn this up?
That was the first time I held. Your small hand is back to health. You and I.
Yeah, I think this area here just needs to be turned up, this entire phrase, by about a half a dB again. So let's write this in again. Here.
Held your small hand.
Whoops.
Held your small hand.
A little too much.
Held your small hand is back to health. You and I
And then it comes back to 0.
felt the vibe. It was time go inside.
All right, now let's see how that sounds.
Was the first time I held your small hand is back to health. You and I felt the vibe. It was time.
Okay, now that time we added again like the 0.6 dB for this phrase, and I think we didn't need to do that because now when I hear it, it feels like the volume and the energy just feels like it unnaturally lifted for no reason, right? So we're listening for those discrepancies and those inconsistencies, and I'm just going to undo that. I think we were fine initially.
Time I held your small hand is back to health. You and I felt the vibe. It was time go inside.
Sounds good?
Went inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking to sleep during the nights. You and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I, you and I.
All right, my mind actually drifted off just a little bit there, so I wasn't paying quite close enough attention. So I'm going to come back here to the end of where that verse is, leading into that chorus, and make sure that the energy levels stay in that pocket that we're trying to create here.
Emotions, and you and I were talking to sleep during the nights. You and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time.
Now, this is where you just kind of use your own creative decision. You just base it on what you feel. So I'm just going to completely follow my intuition here. Now, it's a bit tougher because of how the instrumentation drops out. And so then it's just up to me, like, do I want to keep that vocal super loud in the mix up front like that? Or do I want to push it back slightly? Or I wouldn't say push it back. Let's just nudge it back slightly. Let's see.
Talking to sleep during the nights.
From there to this.
You and I, not the same. Let's
I think it is just a little bit too loud. So maybe we'll just want to do something like this.
get to sleep during. You and I.
Okay, but that part's probably fine. But so I'm just going to select from be here from here to like here, right?
You and you and I.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna raise, or not raise, I'm gonna lower it by about probably a dB. So if we go 1 dB cut there on the volume, let's see what that sounds like in this transition.
And you and I were talking the sea during the night. You and I,
Yeah.
not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time.
Now we could even go to like -2. Let's see what that sounds like.
The sea during the night. You and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I, you and
I really like that. So as you notice here, the energy does go down, but that feels very natural. Why? Because the instrumentation energy also is going down. So I'm actually going to make a slight adjustments to what I said earlier, which was something approximating you want the energy to stay the same, basically on the vocal from start to finish. Although I can't remember if that's exactly what I said or not. But actually, in this case, what we're doing here is we are following the energy of the song. So the instrumentation really drops out there, which then it feels very natural for the vocal to also drop down in volume and hence drop down slightly in energy. So that -2 dB cut here for this part, I think really, I think it helps the song because initially I think that vocal was just a little bit too upfront in the mix and it had just the slightest hint of unnaturalness to it.
we're talking the sea during the night. You and I,
Yeah, so it just becomes kind of more quiet, you
not
know?
the same. Let's give it a try
It just feels less intrusive. It feels more natural, and I like that.
for a while. Turn back time. You and I,
Then
you and I,
it just gives you that nice lift, that 2 dB boost right when this comes here, because this is -2 and this is back to 0. So the difference between here and here is 2 dB on this vocal. Here, let's come here.
you and I, you and I.
And that energy lift there sounds very natural, right? So an energy lift or an energy dip is not inherently bad, but we want to make sure that it feels natural. So I think that's what we have here. So I really like where we're at. So let's keep going.
Not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
Okay, now what is the overall volume level of that? Do I like that compared to this? Again, we want to compare it to the relative level of in the verse, because then at the end of the mix again we can turn up or turn down the overall volume of the vocal, but we're trying to find the pocket relative to where it is from start to finish. So,
Each other's minds pulling out.
do you notice how loud it is in the mix there compared to here?
Not the same. Let's
It's definitely more buried, so that means we need to turn up this part.
give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
So let's just go overall here. Yeah, so be from here to here. Now this you and I,
You and I, not the same.
I want to raise this. Let's start it with just a dB. Whoop. So +1.
You and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I,
All right, let's compare it again to this.
what's inside each other's minds. Not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
I think we need to go another dB.
You and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
Okay, so a problem that I'm seeing here is I think when I adjusted this area -2 in this down section,
Same, let's get
I think I adjusted that a little bit too much relative to exactly what I want the final result to be, rather than to the other section of where the volume is on this vocal. And so I think the one thing I'm going to do is just come in here to the lead vocal fader and just turn everything down by like a dB or so. So about 1.3 dB less to get us started here. Just because I think I want the overall volume to be less. So let's get that closer in the ballpark of what I want it to sound like in the end result. And then I might want to raise this up by a dB. So let's see.
the sea during the night. You and I.
Yeah, I think I want to bring that up by just a dB. So instead of -2, we'll go -1. Let's try that.
We're talking the sea during the night. You and I.
There we go. I like that. And now let's see how that
Not the same,
transitions.
let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I. You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
Okay, I think that's a little too much. So this needs to come down from -2 to -1. Or not -2, +2 to +1. And then I think, let me see.
You and I. Not the same, let's give
But this, you and I, needs to go up in volume a little bit.
you and I.
We'll select that, raise that up. 1.
You and I.
Yeah.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I.
Now, there's a little bit of work that still needs done on those ambience voices talking track. But for now, we're focusing solely on this lead vocal and the volume automation of it. So we'll come back to that when we do our final pass here. So let's just come over here.
Not caring what others said about us, how we should just be friends. You and I. Not the same, who knows why, though it's fine.
Okay, do you notice how this drops off? Listen to that again.
Not caring what others said about us, how we should just be friends. You and I. Not the same, who knows why, though it's fine.
That energy turns down too much. So we need to probably just bring this up by about a dB. Come on. There we go.
Not caring what others said about us, how we should just be friends. You and I. Not the same, who knows why, though it's fine.
There we go. I like that. Just a 1 dB boost, and that took care of it.
Made it work for a while. Then one night you said it was time, no more vibe. You stopped time and started to cry.
Now there's kind of as well.
Time, no more vibe. You stopped time and started to cry.
I think 1 dB might even be a little bit too much, so I might just go like half a dB here.
Time, no more vibe. You stopped time and started.
Well,
Time, no more vibe. You stopped time and
let's try it again.
said it was time, no more vibe. You stopped
It's hard to get it.
time, no more vibe. You stopped time and started to cry.
No, because when I go close to 1 dB, it sounds too loud. So I think I'm just going to keep that as it is.
Time, no more vibe. You stopped time and started to cry. Why is it going away? Who made it this way?
Okay, now here, this is why volume automation is so important. And this is also why, generally speaking, it's a good idea to wait to do volume automation until the very end. And the reason is because of the different effects and already automation moves that have been done. So as you notice, the saturation, that distortion sound that comes in here turns up the overall volume of this section and of this part of the lead vocal. So we want to make sure that that's accounted for, and we probably want to turn down the overall volume now of this section that has that extra distortion on it. So let's compare from here.
And started to cry. completely lost in the dark, you and I.
Now, I think it's cool though when it comes to the energy because I'm trying to always make sure that I don't forget about the vibe and the energy and the experience of the listener in these decisions. And I bring this up because I don't want you to get too hyper focused on, for example, the word balance. Of course, we need balance in our mix, but I would say something that runs even deeper than that, that's even more important, is how does your listener feel when they listen to the song? And if a song is perfectly balanced, they might not have the emotional response than if your song has certain moments where it's actually slightly out of balance, but that makes it more interesting and that makes it more compelling sometimes. And I think that might be what's happening here, where I might want to leave this part with this more distorted vocal. I might want to leave that slightly louder, relatively speaking, to the rest of the volume of the lead vocal, just because I think it's cool and it feels right to me. I think it just might work. So let's compare again. We'll start here and then we'll kind of see how we feel as we go into this transition.
Normal vibe. You stopped time and started to cry. Why is it going away? Who made it this way? The spark that we worked for so
Yeah.
hard is completely lost in the dark, you and I.
I love that. I just think that works. It's louder, of course, but that distortion quality, it's just kind of cutting through a bit more and it wakes you up a little bit. Now, it's still pretty subtle, but I really like leaving the volume right here where it is. So we did turn it down by 1 dB, but it's still louder than the section that comes before it. So,
Going away. Who made it this way?
and it just grabs your attention because we're just pushing it or nudging it slightly closer to the front of the mix. Okay. All right. So let's keep going.
You and I.
Now, do I want to ride this up at the end here?
Lost in the dark, you and I.
Yes. So this is a move that can work wonders, is when you do something like this. Watch.
Completely lost in the dark, you and I.
It's a little tough to do there. Okay, let me try it again. Let me see if I can do it this time.
It's completely lost in the dark, you and I.
Will that work? Let me see.
It's completely lost in the dark, you and I.
Do you notice how the volume is raised here at the end?
In the dark, you and I.
I think it just might be a little bit too much. Let's just go maybe just 1 dB. So that is a 2 dB difference though, because from this is -1 over here, and then let me see here. Yeah, it's -1 over here.
Completely lost in the
Then it slowly raises up.
dark, you and I. Worked for so hard. It's completely lost in the dark, you and I.
It's still a little bit too much, I think. So let's kind of bring this something like that. What do we got?
It's completely lost in the dark, you and I.
Let me see.
You and I.
I think this part still could be a little bit louder. Let me see here.
You and I.
I think initially was actually pretty cool.
Dark, you and I.
Yeah, that you and I, and then as it transitions into the next section, it gives us that nice wave of energy, just that subtle wave, but it is a wave that helps us kind of push us into the next section.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time.
That needs to be turned up, right?
You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I. You and I.
All right, so this overall area needs to be turned up. Let's start with 2, and then we'll go from there.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time.
All right, now I'm going to compare what that sounds like to like over here.
Other side.
don't think we need 2 dB. I think just 1 dB is gonna be fine there.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I. Not the same, I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide.
Okay, I like You and I. I think You and I is in a pretty perfect spot there.
You and I. Not the same, I'll take the blame one more time.
Although you have certain words here that aren't popping through enough. And it's interestingly enough, it's the louder sung words.
Not the same, I'll take the blame.
Like all and the, it shoots them down a little bit. So probably some compression that was done on them actually had pushed it too much to the other direction. And so
Not the same, I'll
like that word needs to be turned up. So I'm just going to come in here and be a little bit more precise with this. So maybe 2 dB. What do we got? See, I like it if it's slightly louder. The as well. Again, I'm just following the energy. I'm not being overly scientific about it. I'm just following what I feel like my ears want to hear. Because sure, they pop out a little bit more. Now they do pop out a little bit more, but that sounds very natural to me. Because think about if you're in a live setting, at a live show, or at an open mic, and somebody is singing a song like this, and they yell out those higher notes in the phrases of their songs, you actually want to hear those higher notes be a little bit louder because it's energy. So we're not trying to completely compress everything and make the volume of the lead vocal completely stagnant. We want to allow for that human element to pop through. And I think raising this back up, I think actually kind of undoing what the compressor did in a sense is I think the right move for this part. Now this, what was this? That was 2. I think maybe I just want to go 1 dB on this one. On the word the. I think I like the 2 dB here though. All right, so we still have a bit of a ways to go here on this song, right? So I'm actually going to fast forward the video now because up to this point, you now have an understanding of what it looks like to automate a vocal track like this. So I'm not gonna continue to make you watch throughout the rest of this, and instead, I'm gonna quickly run through this, but then I'm gonna come back, I'll fast forward the video, and then we'll dive into finishing up the rest of the details and wrap up this mix, okay? So I'll see you on the other side. All right, I got the rest of the volume automation locked in. Of course, as we do the final pass, I can make adjustments if I need to, but just also a point I'll make here is I'm not trying to make this completely perfect. It's not like I'm gonna release this song on Spotify because Easy Day already has the song out, so be sure to go check it out. And I bring that up because inevitably, when I go and I work on a song all the way to the end and I refine it and I make sure that it's ready to release to the world, then usually it'll be multiple passes like this just to make sure the details are correct. So it's a very time-consuming process, especially as you get to the end. But within the reasonable time frame that I'm showing you these things, I am trying to get this song and the vocal mix specifically as finished as possible. So what I'm just gonna do now is one final pass. And all this is one of my favorite techniques. This is what you may have heard me call before the thumbs up, thumbs down technique. So what I love about this is you simply are responding in the moment to the music that you're listening to. So, and then you adjust accordingly. So literally you hit play from the beginning and you just, the thumbs up, where the thumbs up, thumbs down idea comes in is your thumb starts as up, and then as soon as anything happens in the song that causes your thumb to go down, you stop the song and you address the problem, and then you just do that, a pass like that, all the way to the end of the song. Now, again, this comes back to if I was releasing this song, I would do that type of thumbs up, thumbs down pass multiple times. I would then mix it down and go listen on different earbuds or different speakers and do all of that just to make sure the song sounds good across all applications and that everything is in its proper place, or at least in a relatively good place. Not that it's going to be perfect ever, but that's what we're going to do now. Thumbs up, thumbs down technique, one final pass, and then we'll adjust just anything that comes to mind. So here we go. Okay, I think it just needs to be turned down a little bit, that ambience track. But I think it just sounds good to me. Energy-wise, I think it feels good.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I.
Wonder if I need to.
Should just be friends, you and I. It wasn't all your eyes, you just said it all. Same, you and I.
Okay, I think I just need to turn down the overall volume again on the lead vocal just a little bit, maybe half a dB, like that.
I remember when started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell, I crouched down to give you help. You were fine, just a rock that cut you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small hand, us back to health. You and I felt the vibe, it was time, go inside. Went inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking to sleep during the nights. You and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, turn back time. You and I.
Okay, now I wonder, what about if we turn this little part up?
You and I.
That delay echo effect that's happening there, which is, it's this one, right?
You and I.
Yeah. So I'm gonna automate that fader and we'll do something like this.
Felt the vibe, it was time, go inside. We're talking to sleep during the night.
Wait, what did I lose where I was here?
You and I, I'll turn back time. You and I.
Right there, okay.
You and I.
Just like that.
And I.
I'm gonna do something like this.
You and I.
Okay, well, here. Maybe something like that.
You and I.
There we
You
go.
and I. Not the same, let's give it a
All right, got that
try.
done.
Please don't hide. You and I.
You know, I think I'm changing my mind about that reverb that I added to this. I think maybe we just need more of the initial reverb that we had on this in the first place. Maybe just crank it up more. Just turn this down.
the spark that we worked for so hard. It's completely lost, not in the dark. You and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I, you and I, not the same. I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide. You and I. Did we actually have it? What we both wanted was different. You and I, not the same. Only you know why. Though I don't mind, it wasn't always the time. Even though I said it to you that night, you and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I, you and I, not the same. I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide. You and every time we don't talk, and our timer's about to wind down. Post a picture of yourself, hoping I'll just cut it out like a picture on the wall. Your eyes do just say it all the time. We made it great. Now the arrow is gray. Went from talking every day until 2 a.m. we would stay. Then it was 2 minutes a day. Then it was just like every 2 days. And now again, the story won't ever have an end to you and I.
Alrighty, my friend. I really like how this mix turned out. I really do. And of course, it's not perfect. Again, if I was to release the song, I would continue to do these types of passes from start to finish. And then I would bounce it down. And then I would go to the car and then make a checklist and then come back and make the adjustments. I would do that again over a period of days if I really, really was trying to dial in every single detail. But this, I think, is a great starting point for in one sitting. This is what it looks like to make these adjustments. Now, an important point here is, and I'll just be honest about kind of how I feel right now. My ears feel a little bit tired now. I've been working on this track for a bit of time here, and my objectivity is starting to wane. And so it is a good idea when you start to feel that to take a break and then come back the next day to continue maybe with the next pass or to truly put in the final finishing touches. And this is an example of why I always recommend against finishing your mix in one sitting. You want to get it as close as you can, right? Do as good of a job as you can manage in one sitting, like I did here. But just know your limitations and understand the value of time and understand the value of coming back the next day and repeating it with fresh ears and making sure that nothing slips through the cracks. Because 9 times out of 10, or I would say 99 times out of 100, if you try to finish your mix in one sitting, there will be important things that do slip through the cracks. And that is why you need to sleep on it, come back the next day, and perhaps repeat that for a few days. Okay? So now, before we finish this up, why don't we go over and let's compare my version of this mix, this vocal mix, to Easy Day's version. So here I have it here in on Easy Day's Spotify playlist here. Here's the song You and I, and I probably need to turn down the Spotify volume so that it matches a little better, but I'll adjust that as I go, and let's see what we have.
Everything happens for a reason.
Oh, I forgot about that intro line. Did I lose that? Oh, I did lose that. So everything happens for a reason part. Let me see here. Well, I just kind of duplicated that. Here. Probably was at the very beginning of this, right? Yeah, so there it is. I had forgotten about that and accidentally cut that out. Here,
Everything happens for a reason.
maybe up here.
Everything happens for a reason.
So mine is just a bit more ambient, which is fine.
Everything happens for a reason.
All right, is the volume pretty close? Yeah, it's pretty close. All right, let's fast forward to where the vocal comes in here.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I.
Now that's a pretty drastic difference, right? When you hear this song, there's a much more prominent delay going on.
I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help, you were fine.
And it's very different than what I ended up doing here. And this is precisely why I didn't want to reference theirs, because I wanted to just make my own how I felt would sound good. And then here we go.
Started up on a hill,
So different, right?
that would unfold and we'd chill.
It's more, I would say, minimalistic. Theirs is a bit more sophisticated when it comes to adding that delay, and I'm not making a judgment about that at all. This sounds really cool. Sounds really cool.
That was the first time I held your small hand us back to health.
Now, part of what's happening here is I tend to be biased a little bit against delays. I'm just not the biggest fan of delays, or at least not obvious delays, generally speaking. And so I tend to be a bit more subtle with my delay use, versus this song puts it up towards the front of the mix. It's a bit more obvious and it creates its own effect. It's a really cool effect.
Felt the vibe, it was time, go inside.
But it's such a drastic difference, right? I honestly didn't expect it, because I haven't listened to the original here by Easy Day in a while. And so I completely forgot what it actually sounded like. And it's quite different.
I remember when you fell.
All right, let's actually fast forward to some other parts.
You and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, please don't hide.
Now there's like a sidechained reverb sounds like going on.
Rock the cup, that was the first time. Words inside each other, pulling out you and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for.
And then mine tends to feature more of a slap delay sound, and then you've got, that old delay sound.
Oh, wow, turn back time. You and I.
That springing delay effect that you hear there.
You and I.
And their vocal EQ is also more of a radio sounding or telephonic EQ curve on it. Whereas mine, I would say, is a bit more natural sounding.
Oh, wow, turn back time. Waste the time. We made it great.
So yeah, as you can hear, there is quite a difference, right?
Not the same, who knows why
I'm actually really glad that there is such a difference between my mix and the original by Easy Day. It just helps you to understand that there are so many possibilities, so many paths, and the right path. Here's the thing. If you're asking which is the right path is whichever sounds best to you. When something sounds good, that's the right path. When you like something, that is the right path. So take that with you. Do not forget about it. That is an important concept to understand, to come to grips with, and to truly believe. Because when you start to trust what you like, it's amazing what happens because then you start to lean into actually creating the art that you want to, and you stop trying to make music for a hypothetical person out there, and you're completely projecting what you think they'll like. You don't even know. And so if you try to base your decisions on what you think someone else will like instead of what you know you like or don't like, you're setting yourself up to fail. And so yeah, that is the final answer. Which is better? What sounds better? Whatever sounds better to you is what sounds better, right? The biggest difference I would say between my version and Easy Day's version is mine is more minimalistic, it's a bit more straightforward, there's not as much happening, it's less busy. Theirs has more of a telephonic sound, a little bit more of psychedelic processing on this. So it has a hint of a psychedelic mix approach to it. But whereas mine is a bit more straightforward and vanilla, if you will. And I'm using that term vanilla not in a negative sense. I actually tend to really like vanilla vocal mixes a lot of the time. And so that is by no means a negative word in this context. All right, so I will probably come back to this mix for a video or two further down in this course where we delve into some more peripheral genres like psychedelic perhaps, where I might give you an example of how we could take this vocal mix up to this point, and if we wanted to make it sound more like a particular sub-genre, then I might show you more. And so you might see this song again as we go throughout the rest of the mixing module in this course. All right, anyway, that is it for this indie rock vocal mix part of the course. I really hope you enjoyed it. And once again, thank you so much to Easy Day for allowing me to use their vocals and their stems for this course. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I hope you, the rest of you guys watching this, appreciate it as well. So be sure to go follow them on Instagram, listen to them on Spotify, and just show them some love because they deserve it. All right. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next part.